Hello, everyone. This is Sam Brant. Welcome to the 1% Better podcast. Today, the only host is me. The goal of this podcast moving forward is for everyday people, business owners, real estate investors, average Joes looking to get better. My vision for this podcast moving forward is to have a little bit of everyone. Probably to start just with my background, it's going to be probably pretty heavy in the real estate space. Management people, just local investors that I know, but just telling their story and how they got to where they are now. Love to get different businesses on here, business owners, as well as just people that want to get 1% better every day. And that looks like a lot of different things, I think, to different people. You don't have to be a business owner or entrepreneur to get 1% better in your family or your health or your faith, or just being a better person every day. And that's some of the things I want to touch on too. Just being really real and authentic is a thing I think a lot of people miss in social media, and just they get an image or an idea of what success looks like on TikTok or Facebook or their Instagram feed, and that's really not the case. Success looks different to different people, and I think the definition of success that at least I come to is just having a pre-existing goal and working towards that goal every day. Because if you're working towards something, just being a better human being, being a better friend, parent, colleague, whatever that looks like, you're already being successful because you've took the initiative to think through that and attack that goal. So moving forward a little bit, that's kind of my vision. I think probably it's going to start out as just like local, aim-centered people. I think there's a lot of great stories out there for people that maybe never took that first step to, sharing their story. And that's what I want this to be grounds for, is to get those. I think there's a lot of cool stories, a lot of great business people, and just people that continue to grow and are continuous learners in this community here. And then as it grows, I can see it going bigger and bigger. Maybe, Iowa, different markets, things on Zoom. I'd love to always be in person here if we could. At the studio, it's at one of my Airbnbs right now, to be just real with you guys. So it's something I'm gonna have to take down and put up, which is fine. It's part of it. There's little things that go into stuff like this. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into, so we're rocking and rolling. But as for the setup, there's gonna be 3 cameras, one here pointed at the guests. I'm the guest today, so this will be my seat, but more than likely I'll be sitting over here. There'll be a wide range camera and then one over here as well. So really excited, and then maybe some one-off podcasts if people want to do it in the hot tub. I think that'd be super cool. Getting down, just being authentic with people would be fun than just a boring business setting behind 2 desks. Or in people's office, you see a video recording all the time. So something a little different. We might have some Hot Tub Tuesday podcasts coming out every once in a while down the road, if people feel comfortable doing that. So that's what I'm envisioning there. As far as frequency, probably 2 every month to start out. I used to do quite a bit for 6 months. A couple years ago, I did a reel every single day, and that really just wore out on me over time. Just a lot, and I didn't really love it at the end, whereas this, I think, just start slow, easily ramp into it. Make sure they're high quality podcasts that you guys are getting value out of, I think, is the biggest thing. And that just comes back to having a really good guest that has a great story to tell, and then asking those deeper questions. So especially if it's someone here local in the community, it's harder, I feel like, to connect to someone that you've never known before, or you just see their face on Instagram, like an Alex Ramazzi, or what's another big name, like Dan Martell. I've been listening to a lot of his stuff lately. I feel like those people are a little harder to connect, even though they have really authentic stories. But someone here local, lives in Iowa, I feel for a lot of us would make a little bigger impact. So that's my vision going forward. I think moving on a little bit, what I wanted to talk about today is just probably my story for you guys that you don't maybe have heard it before, or just having a better idea of where I came from and what I went through, personally, professionally, in the last, I don't know, since I was a kid. I guess I'm only 26, so it's like there's obviously things that move in your life, especially being a young adult. It's like life changes pretty quick from the last 10 years, I feel like, compared to when you're in your 40s. 10 years isn't as big of a life change maybe as it is now, but everyone's continuing to grow and learn no matter what age they are. So if you're a 1% better thinker. So yeah, getting into a little bit about my story. So I grew up in west central Iowa, around north of Glidden. Went to a small school. I think I had 36 kids in my grade. So really small school. I think the town was 1,100 people, but I grew up on a farm with 3 siblings. Very fortunate for that upbringing. I think everyone's childhood, you can bring the good and the bad, and then you can use that in your life to either make changes or hang on to the things and the values that you brought. So it's all what lens you use in that aspect of it. But really fortunate, coming from a conservative household. Hard work was instilled with us when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. I think it was the first time I started working. Probably sooner than that, doing odds and ends, but I think 12 years old was the first time I drove a tractor, 11 or 12. Picking up, big circle bales out in the field on Saturdays, working 8, 10-hour days. Square bales, I was just talking to a guy yesterday in the sauna for 30, probably 15 minutes just about square bales, how terrible that was. I know there's still some guys that still do it, but that's how I grew up. 7 racks, just small bales of hay, putting them up in the barn when you're in 6th, 7th grade. The things weigh about as much as I did. I think I was maybe 110 pounds, and some of those bales were 70, 80 pounds, which it's a great learning experience for sure. And then scooping shit, literally out of the barns, the cattle lots when I was that old by hand. You can't really get worse of a job than that, I think, unless you're working construction on these 95-degree days. But that's what I grew up in, that environment, which is a great environment. A lot of life skills you bring from that, and hard work, responsibility, showing up on time. It doesn't matter if it's negative 30 degrees outside or if it's 110. The cows still need fed and the chores still need to be done. So showing up every day, I think that's one of the things that gets instilled with you as growing up on the farm, and a lot of good values. So that's how I grew up, and then played a bunch of sports in high school, was pretty involved, and went to Iowa State, not really knowing what I wanted to do, just knowing agriculture was the only thing that I knew of, which was awesome. I met a lot of good friends there, had a lot of good opportunities, did some study abroads, which was fun. And I don't think there's a better group of people than in the ag space personally. They're all so down to earth. And just growing up here in Iowa, I think it's probably one of the best places to just grow a family. And everyone's so nice. I've been fortunate enough to travel some in my life, not as much as I like, but a little bit. And I just don't think there's any other place like Iowa, because the roots and the foundation and just the way people care about each other. I don't think you can find that in many other places of the U.S. or the world. So that's pretty cool. But anyways, went to Iowa State, graduated in 4 years with an agricultural business degree and minor in international ag. And during that time, my senior year, I was looking for, actually I probably need to back up a little bit. Part of the story was during my freshman year, it's usually a tough thing for kids to get internships in the ag space. A lot of people are doing, seed sales, going out probing fields, whatever, go back home working on the farm. And I actually had an internship where I was lined up to be a seed salesperson, and it was something they had booked one too many people for that role, so I was the first one to let go. In that moment, obviously that sucked, but it was probably everything happens for a reason. It's a pivotal moment, because then I was able to go out and reached out to a local GMC and Chevy dealer in Lake City, and that's where I actually got my first job. I worked there for 4 years, paid my way off through school, really fun experiences there, working with every type of person. You'd have someone come in and want to buy a $2,000 car, and then you have the next guy that's worth $20 million wearing coveralls that wants to buy 2 high country pickups. So that was a very fun experience for me, something I'll cherish for the rest of my life, was working at Lake City at Mackey's. It's a ton of fun, a ton of real world experience there. And a lot of those guys get a hard rap, like, you know, on Instagram and YouTube, you know, used car salesman, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's all through your lens, if you want to help someone or if you want to take advantage of them. But I think it was great. You know, if someone wants to get into sales, there's no better experience than just to get thrown to the wolves and see if you sink or swim. And that first year was pretty tough. I don't know how many cars I sold, but I think I made like $20,000 in commission in the summer, which was still, like, you know, good compared to, you know, what other people were doing. But then by the last year, in the summer, I made $50,000 in the summer just selling cars, which was sweet. You know, it was probably the first job, and I was lucky that other internship didn't go through, because I probably would have never been on the path where I am now. Working for yourself, and what you put into something is what you'll get out of it, which I think kind of rooted from the, you know, growing up on the farm. But then that sales position really kind of lit a fire underneath me, which was awesome. And then going from that, after college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. If I was going to stay back, work at the car dealership, or getting into something different. During that time, I was starting to read a lot more podcasts, Bigger Pockets, a lot of different things online. And I actually heard of real estate investing. And I was trying to do, like, it was COVID, so the stock market was going crazy. You know, Bitcoin, day trading, all that crazy stuff. I tried it, and it just wasn't for me. The stress was just, every day you're looking at if it's going up or down. And so I stumbled upon real estate investing. I think I read Rich Dad Poor Dad right there in 2020, and I think if you read that book, you either believe it or you think this is BS. And I just jumped in full feet. I think I started looking at some houses with my former partner, Colin Fett, in the real estate space right at around then, 2020. Didn't really know what I was doing, but just kept taking those small little steps and figuring it out along the way. And in June that year, I went on a wheat run for 2 months, and I actually bought 3 houses in that same month of June. One back in Carroll, which I lived in before I moved back here to Ames, and then 2 more in Ames. They were, all of them I think were, you know, one was 115, the other one was 145, and the other one was 120, which, you know, they're entry-level houses, which you can't find anything like that anymore in Ames. But it was a great learning experience. I remember I was super anxious during that time of, is this going to work out? Am I crazy? You know, what if they stay, if they're vacant, I can't get them rented. But I was fortunate enough to get them all rented kind of off cycle in Ames after August, which was super cool. And after that, I caught the bug. You know, just a couple $100 in cash flow was like the first time in my life I didn't have to physically work to make money. Yeah, real estate investing's not passive. A lot of people think it's super passive, but it's less active than what I was doing before. How about that? So there's always little things that come up with real estate, you know, CapEx repairs, tenants going sideways, all that fun stuff. But it was the first time where I was like, wow, this is pretty sweet. I know what the income and the expenses should be every month. I have a CapEx budget put away, so if something goes really wrong, this place is going to appreciate no matter what, unless I really screw something up. So took that COVID swing up, and then I got back. I actually got my real estate license in 2022, and those tests are terrible if anyone's ever had to take them before. I took them all. I don't think they're that difficult. A lot of studying, obviously. It's not like it was easy, but it was just time consuming. I think it was like 100 hours of coursework you have to do, and I did it all online, so I was just sitting at home by myself, which probably made it that bad. And that first year in real estate, I just kind of grinded it out. I remember I literally took my phone and started calling through all of my contacts in the area and was sending everyone videos of telling them I was getting in the business, which is a hard thing. I remember, especially in that time, you have a lot of feelings of nervousness and like, what is this going to work and how do people think of me? But once you get over that, that's usually what any goal is about, is on the other side of your biggest fear. And I reached out to quite a few people. I actually sold a friend of mine in college my first sale and his first house, which was cool, after about 3 months, and then it just kind of took off after that. That first year, I think I sold about 35 houses, and I bought a couple more rentals for myself that year. I think I bought 2 more. A place on North Franklin and Ames that I still have, and then a house on Hilltop that I renovated. And that renovation was a burr for me. I found it off market, cold calling. And when I found the place, it was pretty rough, for sure. The owner lived out of state. I don't think she'd seen it for 20 years. And I physically did a lot of the work, a lot of the demo, which I think was good for me at that time because it got my kind of feet into it and I could save some expenses. I never really did any of the handyman type work. I feel like I could learn that, but it was just, I had so many other things going on. So I'd hire that out. But I'd always GC the projects, which helped. So if you ever use a big time general contractor, I won't say any names here locally, but if you are a real estate investor, next time you do something yourself, or you even GC it out with a local guy, you should just go have them bid it, because it's astronomical what they'll charge. Which there's value in that, obviously. I'm not saying there's no value in what they do, because they're in business and it is a lot of work to GC projects, but that was one way I was able to save money. And I was literally down in the basement with probably 2-foot concrete saw. Met like one you cut sidewalks or basements with. Down at like 7:30 on a Saturday night, I was cutting that egress window out, which I would not recommend doing by yourself, but I wanted to get it done. I want to save the $3,000 it costs to put an egress window in. So that was a good experience. Then did a lot of demos. I actually flipped my first house there in 2022. You might as well get into that while we're here. It was kind of a gnarly story. So I called the guy pre-foreclosure, and I'm pretty sure, I don't remember his name, but he was wanted by like the Ames police or something. Like he had a warrant out for his arrest in some capacity. I walked through the house and it's pre-foreclosure, so they have it all locked up. I don't know if you've been in pre-foreclosure before. So we had to go through the window to get in. So me and him jumped through the window. I'm with this 40-year-old guy that's been in prison a couple times. Jumped through the window, just shit everywhere. Crack house, needles all over the floor. This house in Ames. And I was like, okay, what do I get myself into? But took a bunch of pictures. There was part of the ceiling falling down, and he owed $65,000 on it, I think. And if you just get out of it, he said he'd move on and wouldn't destroy his credit for the next 7 years. So I think I paid him $70 for it. Went in there. Oh, and the deed. So you got to get the deed packet signed before closing. And when I got that signed with him, he was at a local Starbucks. And I met him there. He called me like 15 minutes before, but he didn't. He thought he was calling his buddy and not me. And he goes, the cops are here. He said, the 5-0's coming, the 5-0's coming. And I was like, hello? Are you there? He's like, oh, wrong number, hung up the phone. And so he showed up just randomly at the Starbucks, got the deed packet signed. We got it closed, and then I imagine soon thereafter he's probably in jail, but crazy stuff what you'll do. Got that closed. Took out a line of credit to buy it, which was like most money I've ever done. It was crazy to me at that time. And from there, I cleaned it out myself, like 3-4 40-yard dumpsters worth of shit. We cleaned out by hand, and then I sold it for like 95, 100. So I was super jacked after that, like all in. So yeah, I bought those 2 rentals, flipped that house, and then I had one other duplex I bought at the end of the year, which also was kind of a shit show. And then 2023, I finished up remodeling that duplex into 2024. I think I moved into it end of 2023. It was like $100,000 rehab. I had to push up the basement like 6 inches because it was falling over, and I actually still have it. One side's a long-term rentals and the other side's an Airbnb. But I did that, lived in one side for a while, rented it out. What else did I buy in 2023? I flipped a few more houses during that time too. I was starting to get more active in that, representing a lot more clients in that space. In 2022 as well, I did my first Airbnb arbitrage, which was actually super cool. I think it was probably the only one in Ames done at that time that I know of. Super successful. I don't know how in the world we got that staged in 3 weeks, because it was like a 2,500 square foot house, probably 3,000 with the basement, like livable space, 6 bedrooms, 3 baths, and like this Airbnb I'm in now, this place probably took us 2 months. Obviously we weren't working on it every day, but just a lot of little things. So did that, and then 2023, I kind of the real estate thing took off more. I think I sold about 45 houses that year. And then 2024, that was a big year for me last year. I got partnered up with a good friend of mine, Bo, and we started flipping a lot more houses together. Last year in 24, we flipped 20 or about 35, 40 houses together. And I think 5 or 6 of those I did by myself. And then I was still selling houses, so I represented another 40 or 50 clients. And then I bought a 12-plex, which was awesome, from just flipping houses, real estate commissions, build up a nice little nest egg. Still have that property now. We'll probably have that for the rest of my life. It's kind of like a generational thing, 30-year note when you're 26, it'll be paid off when I'm 56, so that's pretty badass. So that's what I did last year. And then this year I pretty much been just focused on fixing a lot more houses, flipping a lot more houses, scaling up a team, learning those leadership skills that no one ever teaches you. You just kind of learn it over time, or learning by example. Empowering people, I think, is a big thing. Empowering my team. That's one thing I'm focused on right now, is just how everyone can win and succeed together as a team with my business. And I don't know if I have all the know-how or the knowledge or all the things to say on that aspect of business building, but that's something I'm learning and getting better at every day. So that's what I'm focused on now, my team, and then I'm also building out an Airbnb management business here locally. So by the end of the year, right now, if everyone signs on and gets started, as they said, we already have about 10 properties that I'll be managing, and have started a team of salespeople that will be focusing primarily on getting more Airbnb management clients here locally, and then seeing where that takes us. I think it could go a lot farther than just here locally in Ames and Des Moines. I think there's a need for it. People don't know it just because it is so new, So that's what I've been focusing on lately. As far as personal health, that kind of stuff, I'm getting married in September, which is awesome, exciting. A lot of little things coming together on that, which I'm super excited for. And it should be a great time. So we'll keep you updated on that as it gets closer. Getting a little better every day. Been working health-wise on just becoming a better athlete. I think a lot of people, once they get out of high school and college, they kind of just let their body go to crap and stop focusing on it. And you only get one of them. So men's league is a big thing for me. I love playing some basketball on Wednesday and Saturdays, and then we just got done with Huxley League, which is sweet. So just want to two-hand cram that thing is my goal. Which you'd think being 6'4", I got white man hops, I should be able to do that already, but I can't. That's what we're focusing on. So as far as that, I think another big thing for me this year is I have a couple accountability groups. Two of them. The one group's guys my age, which is awesome to see how they're grinding and going for it and pushing themselves. Just a very like-minded group of guys. And then the other group, those guys are a little older than me, which I also love their perspective and their input and their wisdom. The other thing which I really think is going to be cool about this podcast for listeners like you and myself is just getting people that have been through the ringer for 40, 50 years in business, because it is such a long game. If you count from when I first started working, I guess I've been in the workspace from 12 to 26, that's 14 years. So that's, a decent amount of time, but after really college and school, where that's your main focus, 5. So people that have 10 times my experience, I think will be super cool and insightful to hear what they have to say if they've seen different markets up and down. They went through the 2000s, the 2008s, maybe even the 80s farm crisis, things like that. I think will be super interesting to hear about, as well as as technology's changed over time. AI, I think that's super interesting topic to talk about. I'd love to get some specialists on that. Might be a little bit of a buzz, like AI, to my knowledge, has been around in the medical field for maybe 20 years. So I think now that it's just so accessible on ChatGPT, there's a lot of things we can do with it, and I'm probably not even scratching the surface myself. A lot of people just use it as a search engine, which is obviously good for that. It's probably going to get rid of Google. But there's a lot of things you can do in your business that I think AI is very practical for. It's not going to get rid of jobs, it's going to make people more efficient. And if you're not using ChatGPT or AI, you're probably going to get forced out by someone that is, because it is like your own personal assistant if you're using it in the right way. So I think that's a super cool thing in the future, how we'll just evolve as a species and in the business space over time. Other things I'm excited for is obviously it's team building we talked about. I've done a couple marathons and Ironmans in the past. Don't really have another one of those on the horizon. I did a half marathon in June, the Dam to Des Moines, with no training. I had ran 1 mile before that, and that was difficult. That was difficult. I think the biggest thing for me, why those extreme events is something I like to do, just to push your mental capacity. Because like working out in the gym, lifting weights, doing hang cleans, box squats, bench press, all that kind of stuff, like I feel like, yeah, that's obviously awesome being able to bench 315, but it's not the same. I can't bench 315, but it's not the same mentally as going out and running a marathon. Like just the mental lapse on your brain, it's literally mind versus body, and those are some of the coolest experiences I've had, bringing up even some past traumas, I feel like, from those events. One specifically, I remember probably the hardest race I did was that half Ironman, so I actually signed up for one in Michigan, and when I got up there, it was super wavy, like 3 or 4 foot waves in the lake, and I'd only swam here locally in little farm ponds and at the gym, so I was not ready for that. And when I did that race, I maybe made it, a half mile out there, and then I had to quit because I was just sucking in water. And so that was pretty tough on me because I trained for a year just for that moment, and I messed up. But then I went down just one Saturday, 2 weeks later, I was like, I trained this much, I'm going to do it. So I swam to 1.2 miles in Saylorville, and then drove up to what's that bike path that goes through Slater? High Trestle Trail. I biked the 55 miles there and then ran the 13.1, all under the time limit, so you have to do it under 8.5 hours, I think. And did it all there, completed it. It was sweet. But yeah, after the bike, I literally was trying to run and my legs wouldn't work. I was trying, they just wouldn't operate. After 55 miles, I was kind of like a giraffe, just trying to make the legs work again. But that experience was super cool for me because it brought up some limiting beliefs that I didn't know I had before, or I just never thought of. Because I don't listen to music or anything either when I do that type of stuff. Literally just cold turkey it. And I think that's one of the coolest experiences, being in your own thoughts and just pushing yourself past any limits that you thought were possible before. And I don't think you have to do that type of stuff to be successful, but for me, my personality, I think it definitely helps, push in the other aspects of my life. When I really know I'm locked in and zoned in on some training, it just seems like everything else works more efficiently around me. And I think it's one of those things about the 7 pillars, what I think a lot of our guests will talk about, also having some maybe healthcare professionals on here, or not business people, but professional athletes or college athletes being here in Ames would be super cool, hearing their stories as well. But if one of your pillars is out of whack, so your relationships, your personal life, your business, your health, your finances, your spirit, your faith, if one of those is out of whack, it's gonna throw the other 6 or 7 out of whack too, which I believe in. If you do make a whole bunch of money but you don't have any friends and your life sucks and your marriage is shit, then what really do you have, and vice versa. If you have a great personal life but you can't pay your bills at all, there's going to be a lot of stress with that too. So I don't think there is such thing as balance. It's whatever you want in your life and whatever that success looks like to you. So that's probably enough rambling for me today. That's I think 35 minutes on the books. I could probably talk a while longer, but I am super excited, you guys, about this upcoming podcast and the people we'll be able to bring on. Love to hear your feedback on if you have any guests you think we should bring on or would be a good fit for this 1% Better podcast. Make it everyday Joes, better people. And thanks for watching this one. Love some feedback. Shoot me a comment. Shoot me a text what you think and how you like it. And looking forward to more of these. So appreciate your time today. And like always, have a great day.